So, imagine, if you will, a Venn diagram. We've got a really fascinating deep dive for you today.
We really do.
And I want you to just picture this Venn diagram. It's a pretty standard way to organize the world, right?
Yeah, totally.
So in one circle, over on the left, you have the world of highbrow, serious, modern art. You know, abstract sculptures, those hushed galleries, critics in turtlenecks, very expensive wine.
Right, the sort of world where everything is just very significant and very serious.
Exactly. And then in a second circle, let's put stage magic, but not the slick Las Vegas stuff.
Right.
I'm talking about the carnival, sideshow, buzzsaws, headless women, illusions that are a little bit gritty and maybe a little bit dangerous.
Which is a completely different vibe.
Yeah.
That is all about spectacle and visceral thrills.
Right. And then let's just add a third circle, way out in the fringes. Cryptozoology.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. The active hunting of sea monsters, lake beasts, things that go bump in the night.
Usually those three circles are miles apart. I mean, they do not touch.
No.
In fact, people in the art world usually look down on the magic world and, well, everyone looks sideways at the monster hunters.
Usually, yes. But today we are diving into the life of a man who didn't just live where those circles overlap. He essentially built a house there, painted it bright colors, and invited the world to come watch.
Yeah.
We're talking about Tony Doc Shiels.
A man who is, frankly, one of the most difficult figures of the 20th century to categorize.
For sure.
Was he a gifted painter, a master magician, a monster hunter, or was he, perhaps, the greatest hoaxer Britain has ever produced?
Or maybe, and this is the angle I really want us to chew on today, maybe the hoax was actually the art itself.
And that is the core question. We've gone through a ton of sources for you. Biographical records, art history archives, magic journals, and newspaper clippings.
Spanning his whole life, right?
Exactly. Covering his life from his birth in 1938 all the way to his passing just recently in July 2024.
And our mission for this deep dive is to figure out how a guy goes from hanging out with serious abstract artists in St Ives, like people who are in history books,
Yeah.
to invoking sea monsters with a coven of nude witches on the coast of Cornwall.
It is a trajectory that sounds totally made up, but I assure you it is all in the record.
So let's start at the beginning, because for a guy who became known as the Wizard of the West, he didn't start out pulling rabbits out of hats.
No, he didn't.
He started in a very different, very serious scene.
He did. And to understand the monster years, you really have to respect the art years. We're talking about the late 1950s.
Okay.
Tony Shiels is a young man born in Salford in 1938, but he heads to London to study at the Heatherley School of Fine Art.
Which is a legitimate institution. I mean, this isn't a hobbyist painting class at the local community center.
Far from it.
Yeah.
And he also did a stint at the Académie André Lotte in Paris. So he was classically trained.
Wow.
But the real turning point, the moment where he plugs into the cultural mains, is 1958. He moves to St Ives in Cornwall. Now, we need to pause here because the context of St Ives in the late 50s is crucial.
Yeah, for you listening who maybe aren't art history buffs, why does that location matter? Isn't it just a nice fishing village?
It is a nice fishing village, but at that specific moment, it was arguably the epicenter of British modern art.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was where the heavy hitters were.
Yeah.
You had Ben Nicholson, Barbara Hepworth, Patrick Heron. They were redefining what art looked like.
Moving away from traditional stuff.
Exactly, moving away from landscapes and into pure abstraction. It was just a hotbed of radical creativity.
So Shiels moves there, and he's not just watching from the sidelines. Like, he's not just a fanboy.
No, he is in the trenches. He ran the Steps Gallery, which was known for being incredibly progressive.
Okay.
He was showing artists like Brian Wall and Bob Law names that really matter in the abstract movement.
Right.
But here is the nugget from the research that really establishes his bona fides. It's the Penwith Society of Arts.
And this was the governing body of the scene there.
Essentially, yes. It was an incredibly influential, somewhat exclusive group. And in 1961, there was a major internal conflict.
Like a clash between the traditionalists and the modernists.
Exactly. And the legendary sculptor Barbara Hepworth resigned from the committee.
Man, that is a seismic shift in that little world. I mean, she was a titan.
Huge. And who was elected to the committee following the resignation of one of the greatest sculptors of the 20th century?
Don't tell me it was Shiels.
It was Tony Shiels.
That is wild. That's like, I don't know, finding out that a famous ghost hunter used to sit on the board of the Tate Modern or the MoMA.
It really is.
Yeah.
He had solo exhibitions in London, mainly at the Ruinski Gallery off Carnaby Street. He was a recognized, serious figure in the abstract art world.
So he really knew his stuff.
He understood composition, he understood color, but more importantly, he understood perception.
And framing, which in the art world, how you frame the work often dictates how the audience receives it.
Yes.
Like if you put a urinal in a gallery, it's art. If you leave it in a bathroom, it's plumbing.
Precisely. And you need to keep that in mind, because in the late 1960s, he leaves St Ives.
He moves on.
He moves to a place called Ponsanooth, near Falmouth. And something shifts. He rediscovers a family tradition.
Magic.
Stage magic. Apparently, he learned it from his father and grandfather. But because Shiels was an intellectual and artist, he didn't just buy a magic kit from a toy store.
Right. He wouldn't do anything halfway.
No, he dove into the theory of magic.
Yeah, I noticed in the notes he started writing for publications with names like The Linking Ring and The Budget.
Those are trade journals. The Budget is the magazine for the International Brotherhood of Magicians. It's real inside baseball.
Wow.
He wasn't writing about how to do card tricks for kids' parties. He was writing about the psychology of the impossible.
And he was networking with some really surprising people. I saw the names Ray Harryhausen and Ray Bradbury in the source material.
Yes, those exact names.
I mean, Ray Harryhausen is the stop-motion god, Clash of the Titans, Jason and the Argonauts. Why is Shiels talking to him?
Well, think about what Harryhausen did. He created monsters that looked real enough to suspend disbelief on a movie screen.
Ah.
But Shiels was interested in doing the same thing, but in three-dimensional reality.
Yeah.
They were corresponding about fantasy, about how to evoke wonder.
So he's blending this high art background with the mechanics of illusion.
Exactly. And he helps pioneer a specific subgenre called bizarre magic.
We should define that for you listening. How is bizarre magic different from, say, David Copperfield or a guy in a tuxedo with a dove?
Great question. Traditional magic is often about skill or puzzles. You know, look how fast my hands are.
Yeah.
Look how I fooled you. Figure out how I did it.
Right.
Bizarre magic is about story. It's often darker, rooted in folklore, the occult, or the supernatural.
It's theatrical.
Very theatrical. It relies on atmosphere more than just sleight of hand. It wants you to feel a chill, not just solve a puzzle.
And Shiels literally wrote the book on this.
Several, actually. He published a trio of books.
Yeah.
13, Something Strange, and Demons, Darklings, and Doppelgangers.
Just note those titles. He's really leaning into the Gothic.
Absolutely. So he takes this theory and creates a persona. Enter Doc Shiels, Wizard of the West.
Right, this is the early 70s.
1970 to 1974. He hits the festival circuit. And again, this isn't a slick act. This is street theater. It's rugged. It's folk horror.
So he's out in the elements.
Yeah, he's performing at fairs all over Cornwall with his family and a friend named Vernon Rose.
What kind of tricks are we talking about here?
Visceral ones, the headless woman illusion, the sub-trunk escape, the buzzsaw.
Okay, the buzzsaw is a classic, but doing it in a field in Cornwall in the 70s feels very different than doing it on a nice, clean stage.
Completely different vibe. He even set up something called Tom Fool's Theater of Tomfoolery, which works closely with the Footsbarn Theater.
Oh, they were a very famous traveling troupe, right?
They were. He was taking magic out of the parlor and putting it back into the landscape.
Okay, so we have the artist and we have the wizard, but this is where the timeline gets really interesting.
It really does.
Because this is the part of the story that most people might actually remember, even if they don't know Shiels' name. The monster years.
The mid-1970s. This is where the training wheels just come entirely off.
Right. Up until now, everything he's done is performance. Everyone knows a magic show is a trick. Even if it's scary, you know it's a show.
Right.
But in 1976, he decides that performing tricks isn't enough. He wants to change reality. He decides to raise monsters.
Specifically, Morgor.
And that's the Cornish sea monster.
Correct. Morgar means sea giant in Cornish. Now, typically, cryptozoologists are guys in khaki vests with binoculars and sonar equipment.
Right, trying to prove a biological species exists.
Yeah, they want peer review. Shiels, well, he took a very different approach.
He used witches.
He used witches.
Yeah.
The sources are very specific here. He claimed to invoke the monster with the aid of a coven of nude witches.
Now, I have to play the skeptic here for a second. If you actually want to find a rare, shy, aquatic animal, getting a bunch of people to chant naked on a cliff seems, I don't know, counterproductive.
Scientifically?
Yes.
Theatrically. It's genius.
That's true.
You have to remember the era, the mid-70s. You have the obsession with the Wicker Man, the occult revival, the tail end of the hippie movement.
Yeah, the cultural backdrop is perfect for it.
Shiels wasn't trying to write a paper for nature. He was creating a scene. He was creating a vibe.
And the media just ate it up.
They gorged on it. We're talking BBC TV, 14 times, local papers.
And the tabloids, right?
Oh, yeah. The national tabloids Reveille, the News of the World. They were running stories on Doc Shiels and his monsters.
I mean, it's the perfect tabloid fodder. Nudity, monsters, and a wizard. It hits every single button.
Exactly. He was populating Cornwall with cryptids. Around the same time, he also reported on the Owlman of Monon.
Which was a winged humanoid seen near a church tower, right?
That's the one.
He's just building a mythology in real time, but he didn't stop at Cornwall. In 1977, he went for the championship belt.
He did.
The Loch Ness Monster.
The Holy Grail of monsters. Shiels travels to Scotland. And lo and behold, he obtains photos that are claimed to be of Nessie.
Yeah, we've seen these photos in the source notes. The Muppet photo is the really famous one, right?
Yes, often called the Nessie Muppet photo because, well, it looks a bit like a Muppet rising out of the water.
It really does.
Very stylized. The skin looks almost plasticine. It's incredibly distinct.
But despite looking to modern eyes, anyway, pretty fake, it had a massive impact.
Massive. It hit the front page of the Daily Mirror. The headline was, "Up for the Jubilee Nessie."
Oh, because it was 1977.
Yes, the Queen's Silver Jubilee year. He had completely hijacked the national conversation.
And this wasn't an accident. He called this the monster mind experiment.
Right. And this is where we need to connect the dots back to his art background.
Okay, lay it on us.
If he was just a scammer trying to sell photos, he would have tried to make them look as realistic and boring as possible.
Just a vague hump in the distance, out of focus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But his monsters were flamboyant, they were weird, they had real personality.
So, you think he actually wanted people to question them?
That brings us to his philosophy. He called it surrealchemy.
Surrealchemy. Okay, let's break that down.
It's a portmanteau of surrealism and alchemy.
Right.
Surrealism is about resolving the contradictory conditions of dream and reality. It's about making the unconscious visible.
In alchemy.
Alchemy is about transmutation, turning lead into gold. For Shiels, surrealchemy was about taking the leaden, boring reality of the 20th century, the age of science, facts, skepticism, and transmuting it into something magical.
Wow, so the hoax wasn't a lie, it was an artistic intervention.
Exactly. Think about the Situationists in France in the 60s, Guy Debord, and the Society of the Spectacle.
Oh, yeah.
They believed in creating situations that jolted people out of their passive existence. Shiels was doing that with monsters.
He was using the media as his canvas.
Yes. The front page of the Daily Mirror became his gallery wall. He was injecting a myth back into the modern world.
That's brilliant.
If you look at it that way, the question of is the monster real becomes completely irrelevant.
Because the reaction is real.
Exactly. The wonder is real. The argument in the pub about whether it's real, that is the art.
That is a fascinating reframe. Because usually we look at hoaxers as villains. We think they're laughing at us. But you're saying Shiels was inviting us to play.
He was inviting us to participate in a mystery. He never admitted they were fakes, not explicitly. He maintained the kayfabe, to use a pro wrestling term. He stayed in character.
That commitment is impressive. Most people would crack and say, gotcha, eventually.
He respected the game too much for that, and he didn't stop after the 70s either.
No.
The media frenzy died down, sure, but Shiels kept evolving. In the 1980s and beyond, he moved into playwriting.
I have to mention the titles of his plays because they are just delightful. You've got Spooks, the Gallivant Variations, Nightjars.
And my personal favorite, Cloth Owl, the Winking Curtain.
Cloth Owl, the Winking Curtain. I mean, that sounds like something out of a fever dream.
It's pure surrealism. And again, I want to stress, he wasn't shouting into the void or putting these on in his backyard.
These were real production.
Yes. One of his plays, Distant Humps, was co-produced by Ken Campbell.
And Ken Campbell is a legend in British experimental theater. The Warp, the science fiction theater of Liverpool, he's a big deal.
Huge deal. And the play co-starred Christopher Fairbank. People might know him from Auf Wiedersehen, Pet Pater, or as the broker in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Wow.
So Shiels was still collaborating with serious, talented artists. He wasn't a pariah.
And he also kept writing magic books, right?
He did.
Like the Shiels Effect, the Cantrip Codex. He remained a significant figure in the bizarre magic world.
He really became an elder statesman of the weird. He also documented his own mythology. In 1990, he published a book called Monstrum.
And there was another one by John Downes, right?
Yes, Owlman and Others in 1996, which cemented a lot of this lore.
Oh, but through all the monsters, the plays, the magic tricks, he never stopped painting.
Never. The source notes emphasize this heavily. He continued to paint and exhibit right up until the end.
Wow.
He died very recently, on July 11, 2024, in County Kerry, Ireland. He was 86 years old.
Man, it really feels like the end of an era.
It is. When you look at the full arc from sitting on a committee with Barbara Hepworth to photographing a monster in Loch Ness, it is just a singular life.
It's a life that refuses to be categorized. If you put him in the artist box, you miss the magic. If you put him in the hoaxer box, you miss the intellect.
And I think that's what Surrealchemy was all about. It was about dissolving those boxes entirely. It was about proving that reality is way more malleable than we think. He treated his entire life as a piece of performance art.
So looking back at this deep dive, for you listening, what is the one thing that should stick with you? When you zoom out and look at the whole timeline, what's the lesson here?
For me, it's about the value of the unknown.
Okay.
We live in a time, we have high-definition cameras in our pockets, we have AI, we can fact-check anything in seconds.
Yeah. If a monster popped its head up today, 10,000 drones would be live streaming it in 4K within the hour.
Exactly. There's nowhere for the monsters to hide anymore. The map is filled in. But Shiels lived in a time, and perhaps created a time, where the map still had shadows. He reminded us that the world is weird. And I wonder, in our rush for facts and clarity, do we miss the magic of a well-crafted mystery?
That's a great point. Was he deceiving the world, or was
Yeah.
he offering us a gift?
Right. Was he lying? Or was he just telling a story so good that it briefly became true?
You know, it makes me think maybe the real alchemy wasn't about changing reality at all.
What do you mean?
Maybe it was about changing us, like transmuting our own willingness to believe. In a hyper-rational world, maybe the ultimate magic trick is getting adults to look at a weird plasticine shape in the water and feel, just for a second, that anything is possible.
I love that. Maybe, just maybe, the world needs a few more monsters, even if we have to make them up ourselves.
That is a powerful thought. Something to chew on the next time you see a grainy photo on the internet or a ripple in the water. Maybe don't be so quick to debunk it. Maybe just enjoy the what if.
Indeed.
Tony Doc Shiels, artist, wizard, monster maker. Thanks for taking this dive into the surreal with us.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
And to you listening, keep looking for the strange in the everyday. We'll see you on the next deep dive.